Are you the hero of your own life, or are you just drifting and letting fate write your story for you? That is the question that Donald Miller's Hero on a Mission forced me to have to confront about myself. It completely changed the way I think about my life and purpose. Over the past year, I've applied his storytelling principles to completely reshape how I approach my personal and professional life. Hero on a Mission helped me move from feeling completely stuck in my life to now living with intention. In fact, back in July of this year, I was able to compete in my first amateur mixed martial arts fight, and a lot of it is thanks to the principles that I learned and applied in this book that allowed me to be able to step into that octagon and have my first fight. Welcome back to Be Unafraid. My name is Fortune, a lifelong learner who is deeply inspired by Donald Miller's work. By choosing to stop seeing myself as a victim and embracing a fighter's mentality, I completely shifted how I show up in life. Today, I'm sharing with you 3 key lessons from the book that helped me step into becoming the hero of my own story and how it can inspire you to do the same. This isn't just a book review. It's really all about a mindset shift that helped me transform how I live my life and really take control of writing my own story. And these principles are things that you will be able to apply in your life as well. And it's going to help you to now live out life with intention. So subscribe so that you never miss another episode. Let's dive right in. So lesson number 1 from Hero on a Mission is to take responsibility of your own story. Donald Miller says, whether we like it or not, the lives we live are stories. Our stories have a beginning, middle, and end. And inside those 3 acts, we play many roles. We are brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, teammates, lovers, friends, and so much more. For many of us, the stories we live feel meaningful, interesting, and perhaps even inspired. For others, life feels as though the writer has lost the plot. Now, this was an interesting concept to now think of your life as a story and realizing that for some people, life feels meaningful. They feel like they have a purpose. They feel like they are doing something that they're meant to do. And then there's a whole nother side where other people feel that there is no meaning to life. And as Donald Miller said, the story has lost its plot. I can almost guarantee you that a lot of you guys, just like I have lived out kind of both of those worlds where some days things feel meaningful. And then there are some days where things feel like you've lost the plot to life. This really had me questioning, why are things the way they are? Why do I feel like I am not moving towards a certain purpose? Why do I feel like there's no meaning to this? And why do I feel like I'm not actually writing my story and the things that are happening in my life are things that I'm not actively taking part in it? It made me question, who is writing my story? If I'm not doing it, then somebody has to be doing it, right? Donald Miller goes on to say, all of this begs the question though, who is writing our stories? Is God writing our stories? Is fate writing our stories? Is the government or our boss or the church writing our stories? For me, at that point, being curious, I dug into the text a little bit more, and to understand, Donald continues and says, for practical purposes, it is my position that the author of our stories is actually us. Perhaps the single greatest paradigm shift I've had as a human is this idea. I am writing my story, and I alone have the responsibility to shape it into something meaningful. Taking those words and meditating on that, I alone have the responsibility to shape it into something meaningful. That thought of empowering yourself and realizing that because we all live in a story, somebody has to write it, and acknowledging that you play a role in that particular story and you do have an active role and ability to influence how your story plays out. Understanding that fact and really opening up your mind to that fact is really the first step into crafting and into seeing how you can build the life that you want to build. Here is a hard truth. If God is writing our story, he isn't doing a good job. I think we can all agree that some people's stories seem quite tragic, and many of us have experienced our share of those tragedies. What's more, if God is writing our story, he isn't doing a fair job either. Some people are born privileged, and some are not. Some die an untimely death, and others live in prime health until the credits roll. That's an interesting point. And that opens a story loop in my brain, and that starts to get me to think, why is it like that? Why is it that some people have and some people don't have? Why is it that some people are born into certain circumstances and some people are not and born into a different circumstance? And some people have the opportunity and the ability to do certain things because of their environment, and they didn't necessarily choose to be in that environment. Donald goes on to say, what if instead of writing our stories, God has invented the sunrise and sunset, the ocean and the desert, love and various forms of weather, and handed us the pen to write the proverbial rest? What if we are as much more responsible for the quality of our stories than we previously thought? What if any restlessness we feel about our lives is not in fact fault of fate, but the fault of the writer themselves, and that writer is us? That's a very powerful statement, because what this told me and how I interpreted it is, yes, God created the earth, God created the sunrise, the sunset, all of these beautiful things and wonderful things that we get to experience. But what if it is up to us how we experience those things? We can look at a situation, make it a negative or a positive. All of those things are things that we conjure up in our minds, and we put a particular image or a definition to something when it's just the way things are. So realizing that things are the way they are, and our thoughts are things that we basically create, and that you have an active role and an ability to shape how you think, ability to shape how you feel, ability to shape how you create your own world within your abilities, is empowering. It really gives you a positive outlook to life and allows you now to think positively and think that you can control a lot of these things. All of the things on this planet, all of the things on this earth were created to be magnificent, to be beautiful, right? And you can choose to experience that, and you can choose to experience things in a certain way and control how you feel and control what you think and control what you say and control things that influence you. You can choose to write the story along with fate and not be a passive bystander and let fate write it for you. Regardless of who is writing our stories, it is a useful belief that we are the authors. And it's more than a useful belief. It's a fun belief. What if we get to partner with the fixed elements of life to carve out a little narrative of our own making? The good news about life, the good news about living our stories, is that we can take an active role in it. We have the ability to co-write our life with fate. All we need to know to fix our stories are the principles that make a story meaningful. Then, if we apply those principles to our lives and stop handing our pen to fate, we can change our personal experience and in turn feel gratitude for its beauty rather than resentment for its meaninglessness. Meaning that now that you understand that life is a story, now that you understand that you do have the ability to influence your life, understanding the principles of a story, understanding the principles of your story and how you can play an active role in that and how you can impact those principles is key to now living life as the hero on a mission. Throughout the day, we bounce back between these four different roles in a story. And when you look at a movie, you can tell that in almost every single movie, there are these four elements. There is a victim that needs to be rescued. There is a villain that is trying to hurt somebody or that is trying to bring pain onto this world. There is the hero who is trying to overcome something, become great, and defeat the villain. And then there's the guide, who is the person that's going to help the hero. We live our lives through these four elements, and it can be multiple of these things all throughout the day. You can be a hero and a victim multiple times, and sometimes it changes by the hour. And that's an interesting concept that Donald Miller introduced to me. And he goes on to say that if you were a writer and came up to me with a troubled story and said, Don, this story isn't working, it's not interesting, and I don't know how to fix it, the first thing I'd look at is the lead character. Who is this story about, and why isn't this character working to make the story meaningful? We are the character in our own lives. And if you feel that your story is not working and you feel like you've lost your plot, you really need to audit yourself. You need to look internally, because you are the main character. Why isn't the story working? Why aren't things going the way I envision them to go in my life? What am I doing? What am I not doing? What am I responsible for? What can I control and what can't I control? It all starts with you. Donald goes on to say, one thing that will ruin a story fast is if the hero, the character that the story is about, acts like a victim. You cannot have a lead character in a story that acts like a victim. This is true in stories. It's true in life. In fact, it is true in stories because it's true in life. The reason a hero acts like a victim ruins the story is because the story must move forward to be interesting. The hero must want something that is difficult and perhaps even frightening to achieve. This is the plot of nearly every inspirational story you've ever read. A victim, on the other hand, does not move forward or accept challenges. Instead, a victim gives up because they have come to believe that they are doomed. Very interesting point distinguishing between the hero and the victim. The hero wants something and they're willing to go after it. The victim is not willing to go after that, and they're not willing to accept challenges, and they believe that they're doomed. There's been times for sure where I have fallen into victim mentality, and Donald in his book even distinguishes between a true victim, who are really people that need help and should get help, versus people that act as if they're a victim. And acting as if you're a victim and going into victim mentality really does not spur any growth, and it doesn't move the story forward. You feel like you've lost the plot to your story, so you feel like you're doomed and you stop taking on challenges and you stop growing. Then that's it. That's the end of the story. The story stays where it is as long as you stay in victim mentality. So that is why you have to get out of that and start to tap into more of the hero mentality. I remember several years ago, and that was back in my mid-20s, I used to have a little bit more of a victim mentality than I do now. And I remember specifically telling one of my friends, I don't remember the situation to be exact, but something happened in my life and I felt pretty down about it at the time. And one of my friends was telling me that, hey, it's going to be okay. Get back up, dust yourself up, push forward and keep going. And I remember telling him that sometimes when life knocks you down, you have to know when to stay down. And this is one of those times. Looking back at that, remembering how I felt and remembering myself saying that, that is an example from my life of victim mentality. Something challenging happens or something didn't go my way. My instinctual reaction was to just lie down and let life run over me. That is not a hero. You don't go anywhere with that mentality. And if you lean into that mentality for too long, it's going to become very comfortable and it's going to become your default mentality, where if any small little thing happens in your life, you're just going to shell up and cower up and give in to fate and think with a doomed mentality and never move on and never really build the story that you want to build. There is a interview that Bill Besick, who is a sports psychologist, and he has coached a lot of Olympic gold medalists win gold medals. He talks about when he counsels or coaches his clients, how he asks them, do you want to be a fighter today, or do you want to give in to victim mentality? Meaning that as a professional athlete or as a gold medalist athlete, these guys train to be the best, and they train every single day, and they're trying to be the best in the world. And there are going to be a lot of days where they don't want to train, their body hurts, mentally they're not there, they have doubts about their abilities. And what Bill said, asking his coaching clients, do you want to be a fighter today? Or do you want to succumb to victim mentality and not win the gold medal? Which one is it going to be? You have to make a choice. You are living a story. You are trying to write a story of being a gold medalist. Victim mentality doesn't win gold. Fighter mentality wins gold. So you have to wake up and make a decision. And I took that to heart, especially when I was training for my first amateur mixed martial arts fight. There were days where my body was hurting. There were days where I was hungry and wanted to eat whatever foods I wanted to eat instead of sticking to the diet. There were days where I had no motivation. Actually, most days were like that. And I had to ask myself every single morning, are you going to be a fighter today, or are you going to be a victim today? Which one is it? Do you want to win that fight? How bad do you want to win that fight? Every single day, I had to ask myself that, and I had to answer that question. I am going to be a fighter today. And creating that type of mindset to be a hero and strive to be a hero and not be a victim really helped me get up every single morning, go to the gym, and go train every single day for the fight. When you succumb to that victim mentality, your life is going to stagnate. Your career is going to stagnate. You're going to feel like you're not making any progress in your career and you're not really going anywhere, or you're not sure where you're going. Your physical fitness is going to stagnate. Your relationships are going to stagnate because you're going to have a loser's mindset where you believe that you're doomed if you do and you're doomed if you don't. So it's really a scary feeling, and it's something that scared me so much when I realized that if I stay in that victim mentality, I'm never going to accomplish all these big goals that I have. I'm never going to become the person that I want to become in my own story. And if that does not scare you, then you really need to look within inside of yourself and think about that. Are you going to be a fighter today, or are you going to be a victim today? Donald does give a warning that if you give in too much into the victim energy, you need to be careful not to attack yourself and develop what he calls a villain mentality. The villain is the one who makes other people feel small. Many of us likely identify with that season. We've all been through periods of hopelessness. Some make it out and others stay in hopeless state. Most of us, though, choose a hybrid life. We move forward a little, make a career and a spouse and some kids, but we continue to be halted by the intrusions of victim energy. We only surface hero energy when we need to climb a rung in our career or clean ourselves up so we can find a mate and reproduce. But to the degree victim energy surfaces in our lives, our stories suffer a haunting restlessness. Be careful, though, if by reading these words we realize we've been surfacing victim energy and shame ourselves, we've immediately surfaced another kind of energy that will ruin our story. We've surfaced villain energy. A villain, you see, makes others small. A story about a villain who won't deliver a sense of meaning either. When we shame ourselves for acting like a victim, we're manifesting a conversation in which the villain inside of us attacks, the victim inside of us. This kind of inner dialogue does not create a great story either. In fact, the two characters that will ruin our story the fastest are the victim and the villain. This is why victim mentality can be very dangerous, because eventually it will lead to villain energy, where you see other people around you getting things that you want. You see other people succeeding. You see other people getting into relationships, getting the careers, building businesses, starting YouTube, building content, starting podcasts. You see that, and because you're in victim mentality, you feel so bad that you want to bring those people down as well, just so you can feel better. And that is a very scary place to be, because nobody wants to be around a victim who's been a victim for too long, and nobody wants to be around a villain, because you're constantly trying to bring others down instead of bringing yourself up. So that's something I've learned to be very careful about, and I think you should take that into consideration and really be mindful of the victim and the villain energy. Donald explains that the villain and the hero actually are very similar in the fact that they both start out with nothing and they both aspire to be something. The difference is that the hero actually develops the courage and goes out to get said thing, whereas the villain doesn't experience a transformation and they stay the same. So that villain energy, that victim energy festers, and they now go out to destroy the other heroes out there. In a story, the villain really plays a bit. The reason why a villain is in a story is to make the hero look good. It's to elicit sympathy for the victim. And Donald talks about it. The story is not for the villain. The story is for the hero. And that is a very interesting concept now when you think about that. Am I playing the hero? Am I playing the victim? Am I playing the villain? Well, you should choose to play the hero, because that's who the story is about. And your story is about being a hero. This is one of the questions I would certainly ask myself as I edit a story that wasn't working. How is the hero responding to their challenge? When they're insulted, how do they react? When they are rejected, how do they treat the person who has rejected them? When they feel that all is lost, are they able to find a light in the darkness? Do they try? Do they move forward against all odds? And do they get up when they are knocked down? How do you respond to challenges? How do you handle rejection? How do you handle getting rejected in your relationships, in your career? How do you handle losing? How do you handle when things don't go your way in your life? How you react to those things is going to determine which part you play in a story. If you respond with a sense of hopelessness, you're playing the victim. If you lash out at other people in anger, you're playing the villain. But if you respond with courage, positivity, and relentlessness and resilience, then you're starting to play the hero of the story. If I were trying to fix a broken story, after I made sure the hero wasn't manifesting too much victim or villain energy, the next thing I'd look for is the guide. Who is helping the hero win? Where is the hero getting their knowledge from? Who is the hero going for encouragement? In stories, heroes can't make it on their own because they don't know how. If they knew how, they would have worked out all the flaws on their own. Remember, heroes are flawed and in need of transformation. In fact, they are often the second weakest character in a story. Only the victim is in worse shape. To help the hero out, the storyteller sends a guide. Yoda helped Luke learn to be a Jedi. Haymitch helped Katniss win the Hunger Games. In every story, there is a guide who's going to show up and help the hero survive and thrive. And this guide is a person who's been through what the hero's trying to go through, who's gone through life and they have learned and they have failed and they've overcome, and they eventually turn into a guide that is able to not be in victim mentality, but to tap into fighter mentality a lot more. And this had me questioning, and should have you questioning as well. Who are the guides in your life? Who are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you watching? Who are your coaches and mentors? Who are your friends? Who are your family? Who are those people around you? Are they guys that are helping you to overcome something and bringing positivity and growth and encouragement in your life? Or are you surrounding yourself with people that act like victims and people that have that villain energy to constantly bring you down? You need to audit that and really take a careful look at who's in your inner circle. And when you start to fill that circle with guides that are going to help you get to where you want to get to, you now really start to move forward to become the hero of your own story. And eventually you will transform into a guide. The things you read and the things you watch can also serve as a guide for you. Hero on a Mission helped me create a life plan for myself and to really understand the 4 characteristics of this story. Gary Vaynerchuk's Crushing It helped me get started creating content. Roberta Blake taught me how to make videos that click and how to bring big creator energy into the space, even though I'm a small content creator right now. And Patrick Bet-David's Your Next 5 Moves taught me the art of business strategy and how to think several moves forward and to not just think about one small piece of the puzzle. All of these people serve to be my quote unquote Yodas. They serve to be my mentors. And I'm constantly auditing who is in my circle and who I listen to and adding those people that provide value for me and that I can learn from and have done the things that I want to do. And that has really helped me start making some progress in life. Lesson number 3 from Hero on a Mission is to understand that to live a story is not a choice. The hard truth about life is not that it asks us to live a story, but that it forces us to live a story. We have been forced into this life by the breath of God. We come out crying, gasping for air, and what we do with that air is what constitutes the quality of our own story. So if you do not choose to be the hero of your own story and co-write your story with fate, fate is going to write your story for you, and it's going to play out however it plays out. And it may not be the way that you want it to. And if you sit back with victim mentality, villain mentality, and not choose to get out of that and be a hero and have a fighter's mentality, things are just not going to go your way, and you will be stuck in that plot that you're choosing not to do anything about. And this brings me back to what I talked about with Bill Bessig, the sports psychologist. The question you should ask yourself every single day: are you going to be a fighter or victim today? Are you going to have a fighter mentality? Are you going to have a victim mentality? Which one is it? You have to pick. Every single day you have to pick what part you're going to play in a story. And you may play multiple parts, but you have to be intentional about being the hero of your own story. If you want to take the next step in your life and live your life as if you were the hero in your own story, and you want to set goals and objectives that align with that mission of being a hero, click this video right here.